Welcome back, dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review, and we are joined today by Mr. Rahman. He's a political analyst. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And we start off from Al-Ahram newspaper, and we read the following headline: President Abdel Sisi praises Japan anti-cat summit. President Abdel Sisi expressed his appreciation to the people and government of Japan for hosting the 7th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 7, which is scheduled to be held from August 28th to August 30th. The President also expressed his appreciation to the organizers of this important conference, especially the African Union Commission, the World Bank, and the United Nations Development Programme. This came in a letter which was sent by President Sisi to the upcoming TICAD 7 summit and was published on the official website of the Japanese Foreign Ministry on Monday. President Sisi said that TICAD has proved to be one of the important platforms that brings together various partners to support Africa and its developmental aspirations. The President said that the integration process in Africa has been remarkably launched during the past 2 decades since the establishment of the African Union. He also said that the adoption of Africa's Agenda 2063 and the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area are important cornerstone for achieving desired regional and economic integration. So, sir, how do you read statements by the President?
Well, Egypt is going to this summit as the leader of its continent, yes, the African continent.
Yes.
Cooperation between Egypt and Japan and Far East countries. On the other hand, the strong ties are being built with our neighbors in Africa, within Egypt, in between, are masterminding the whole strategy of communication between Far East and Africa. And of course, with all the benefits expected for the continent, and of course for Japan, as we have the markets and the raw resources and the willing to build a leadership, an Egyptian leadership, yes, domestically and continentally and even worldwide.
Yes. And we move to Al-Shuru newspaper, and we read Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli reviewed on Monday report which was issued by the Harvard Institute for International Development. The report indicated that Egypt's economy is expected to grow by an average of 6.8% annually until 2027 to become among the fastest growing economies in the world. The report explained that these expectations are based on a measure of economic complexity which reflects the diversity and development in the productive capacities in the exports of each country. Egypt ranked 68th in the Economic Complexity Index. So how do you see this report, sir?
Well, this is represents the common idea now about Egypt economy. We are considered an economical tiger.
Yes.
We are at the very place that the other tigers of Far East have begun since 60s. Now we are taking the lead right now. I believe that we are reviving the true renaissance we have been establishing in the 60s on new bases, on free markets and on the balance of the free markets and the controlling role domestically by the government.
Yes. And from Al-Wafd, we read the Foreign Minister holds phone call with U.S. Secretary of State. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held a phone call on Monday with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to discuss strategic relations between Egypt and the United States, as well as regional situations of common concern. During the phone call, the two ministers discussed ways of boosting cooperation between Egypt and the United States in various fields to achieve common interests of both countries. The two ministers also stressed on the coordination between the two countries in the field of combating terrorism. Shukri and Pompeo also exchanged views on various crises in the Middle East, including Palestinian cause, crises in Syria, Yemen and Libya, as well as developments in the Gulf region. The two foreign ministers agreed to continue consultation and coordination during the coming period on all issues of common concern. So, sir, how do you evaluate the cooperation, coordination between the two countries?
Coordination is the right word here. As we have some parts of our disinterests are in common, and our other parts of our common interests are in conflict. So we have to go through that thin line between the conflict of our disinterests towards the U.S. and other sides of other lines. We are cooperating together, like you have said, combating terrorism. But on the other hand, we will not allow for the American influence to invade the territory no more. No more the invasion, no more troops. We are standing against any more American troops or NATO troops within Gulf or the whole territory.
And from Al-Yom Al-Saba newspaper, we read registration of citizens in the new comprehensive health insurance system continues. And the new comprehensive health insurance system announced on Monday that the registration of citizens to obtain medical services within the system is continuing with high efficiency in 22 hospitals in Port Said Governorate, stressing that it will continue until 31st of August. The new comprehensive health insurance system said that during the first month of the experimental launching, 1,461 surgeries were performed. On July 1st, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, announced that starting of the experimental launching of the new comprehensive health insurance system in Port Said. The Prime Minister noted that President Abdel Sisi gave his directives to the government to focus on human development, especially education and health. So, sir, how do you see now the implementation, the start of the implementation of the new health insurance system?
We are witnessing too many campaigns. Yes. We are talking campaigns that go all over the country.
Yes.
Addressing all citizens, all types of citizens, representing the very important situation of the state towards the responsibilities against our people.
And from Al-Yom Al-Saba newspaper, we read Syrian army forces continue operations in Khan Shaykhun. And Syrian army forces on Monday continued the operations targeting the positions of terrorists in Idlib province, expanding the area under its control in the western countryside of Khan Shaykhun city, inflicting heavy losses upon terrorists. The Syrian army operations during the past few hours focused on the fortifications and positions of Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists in the direction of Kafridun and al-Sabaghiya in the countryside of Khan Shaykhun, leaving many terrorists dead and injured while others fled the area. The Syrian army also carried out artillery and rocket strikes in Kafr Sajna and al-Naqir, killing a number of terrorists. So, how do you see the situation in Syria?
The situation now is, excuse me.
Yes.
The Syrian army now is doing exactly what it should be doing, compacting the invasion of Turkey. The Turkish troops are trying to support and try to invade the Syrian lands, the Arabic Syrian lands. So the Syrian army, the Syrian Arabic army is doing the role it should be doing. Standing against the Turkish invasion, standing against the terroristic organizations that are following the orders of Istanbul and other intelligence sets like Mossad or MI6. This is the only true right role that the Syrian Arabic army should do as an Arabic army, again, without cooperating with the Iranians, without cooperating with what's called Hezbollah, the terroristic Hezbollah.
And from Al-Ahram newspaper, we read that France's Macron discussed Brexit with Johnson on Thursday, and French President Emmanuel Macron will meet British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on the 22nd of August to discuss Brexit. An official from Macron's office said on Monday that Macron will host Johnson for a working dinner at the Élysée Palace, which will be preceded by remarks to the press. Johnson is also scheduled to meet German Chancellor Angela Merkel this week. Johnson will deliver his message on Brexit to Macron and Merkel during the visits. British government spokeswoman said that ahead of the G7 summit, the British Prime Minister believes it is important to speak to the leaders of France and Germany to deliver the message that he has been setting out. She said that it's likely they will discuss other issues, including foreign policy and security, but clearly Brexit will form a key part of both bilateral meetings. So, sir, how do you see the Brexit now?
Okay, Johnson's part right now is to get Britain out of the EU.
Yes.
If Britain get out of the EU will fall apart like dominoes. And this is exactly the role that Mr. Johnson is coming for.
Yes.
The talks between France and Britain about the Brexit issue, I believe that France is trying to convince Britain to delay the step. On the other hand, Britain is trying to lighten the fears in Paris from such a very important and dangerous step.
And moving to Al-Watan, where we read for F-35A. Stealth fighter jets are expected to arrive in South Korea this week, and 4 more F-35 fighter jets are scheduled to arrive later this week, which will bring the total number of stealth fighters in the country's Air Force to 8. The 5th generation Raider evading warplanes manufactured by the U.S. are expected to arrive at the 17th fighter wing in Gwangju, 140 kilometers south of Seoul, as early as Thursday. So far, 4 F-35As have arrived, 2 in March and the rest in July, under Seoul's plan to deploy a total of 40 stealth fighters by 2021, according to the South Korean Defense Acquisition Program Administration. By the end of this year, 10 F-35As are to arrive in South Korea as a centerpiece of the country's strategic targeting scheme against potential enemy forces. South Korean Air Force officers said that the warplanes are expected to boost operational capabilities and strengthen the readiness posture against threats from all directions. So, sir, the reasons behind all these weapons?
Let me start by what you ended up with.
Yes.
What the meaning of threats here? Aren't the leaders in South Korea, isn't it time for them to understand and realize that uniting with the other part of the same nation and the same country is the only solution they should take and they should follow? This will launch new weapons race in the territory there. Russia is not going to stand still. China is not going to stand still and watch more weapons are pouring on the South Korea. On the other hand, North Korea has every right to defend itself.
Yes.
I wish for them, for both sides, to understand that only uniting one nation, the Korean nation, will kill the last threat of true threats to this nation.
And finally, we move to Maspero Gate, and we read hot weather expected On Tuesday, meteorologists predict moderate weather to prevail Tuesday on the northern coast, hot weather on Delta and Cairo to the north of Upper Egypt, as well as very hot weather on the south of Upper Egypt, but they predict it to be moderate at night. Mist is expected to affect the visibility in the morning on some parts north of the country. Low-level clouds are expected on the northern coasts, as northwestern wind will be moderate, but it will be active on South Sinai, the Red Sea and the Gulf of Suez, possibly disrupting maritime navigation there. Temperatures in Cairo are expected to be 25. Waves in the Mediterranean Sea are expected to average between 1 and 1.5 meters high, while waves in the Red Sea are expected to average between 1.5 and 2 meters high, with northwestern surface wind on both sides. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of the Press Review, and I'd like to thank my guest for today, Mr. Amr Rahman, political analyst. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And now, short break, and we'll be back, so stay tuned.